Okay, welcome back. Sorry for a little bit late. Let's just check that's on. Yeah. Okay, part 2. So we read, the Lord spoke to Moshe saying, send for yourself men that they may search, where there is the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers shall you send a man, every one a ruler among them. So send them so that they may search. You see, primitive route to meander about. Now, the word used here gives the impression that Yehovah was telling them to wander about in a relaxed manner. Certainly, I don't think he was telling them to do a feasibility study as to whether they were able to conquer the land or not. He's already promised it to them. As we've seen, this is kind of an evaluation was not necessary since Yehovah had promised the land and a victory over anyone who might challenge their right to it. But as we've seen, they demonstrate a lack of faith. Now, one of the verses that we looked at before was, I'll send an angel before you and drive out the Canaanite, the Amorite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite. And from earlier, in Exodus 23, we read, behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice, provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. So, this is no ordinary angel. This is for pardoning transgressions. This is Yehovah, Shema, his voice. If you shall indeed Shema his voice, and do all that I speak, then I'll be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. For my angel shall go before thee and bring thee in unto the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. So perhaps this is the problem. They do not Shema his voice. No wonder they lacked faith. We read in Romans 10, faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. Or to translate it to the Hebrew, faith comes by shemaring and shemaring by the word of God. Clearly, these people were not about that. So Yehovah spoke to Moshe saying, send the men out to spy the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the people of Israel. From each tribe of their fathers you shall send a man, every one a chief, a Nasi among them. The tribe of Judah, Caleb the son of Jephunneh. The tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea the son of Nun. And these were the names of the men whom Moshe sent to spy out the land. And Moshe called Hoshea the son of Nun, Joshua. So Moshe added the letter Yod to Hoshea's name, changing his name from Hoshea's salvation or deliverance to Yehoshua. Yah shall save, Yah shall redeem. And Moshe sent them to spy out the land. He's a picture of Yeshua as when his name actually is referred to as Yeshua later. Moshe sent them to spy out the land of Canaan and said unto them, get you up this way southward and go up into the mountain and see, and the word there is ra'ah, the land, what it is, and the people that dwelleth therein, whether they be strong or weak, few or many. And what the land is that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad, and what cities that be that they dwell in, whether in tents or in strongholds. And what the land is, whether it be fat or lean, whether there be wood, trees, example, therein or not. And be of good courage and bring of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes. Now, the spies did trek through the land, however they, it would seem, failed to see the land and to bring back a vision to the people. Note the concept of seeing in Deuteronomy and notice the grace of Yehovah in response to Moshe. Deuteronomy 3:25, he said, I pray let me cross over and see the good land beyond the Jordan, those pleasant mountains and Lebanon. But Yehovah did not allow Moshe to cross over, but he did give him eyes to see. Deuteronomy 3:27, go up to the top of Pisgah and lift your eyes toward the west, the north, the south, and the east, and see, and it's this word again, ra'ah, it with your eyes, for you shall not cross over this Jordan. And in fact, he sees what would not be capable of being able to see with the natural sight. But people point to the fact that in Numbers we read that Yehovah tells them to search out the land, and yet, according to Deuteronomy 1:22, Moshe states that the people requested spies to be sent. Indeed, Deuteronomy 1:21, all of you came near me and said, let us send men before us that we may explore the land for us and bring us word again of the way by which we must go up and the cities into which we shall come. Interestingly, in this retelling of the story, Moshe used the Hebrew verb derived from the same word as meraglim, which is the root form for more of a military-style spying, even though that verb form was never used in Numbers 13 to 14. In Deuteronomy 1:24, they departed and went up into the mountains and came to the valley of Eshcol and spied it out. And the word there is regal. We see this word used in the book of Joshua. Joshua 2, Joshua the son of Nun sent out of Shittim 2 men to spy regal secretly, saying, go view the land, even Jericho. And they went and came into the harlot's house named Rahab and lodged there. So this word is go and search it out secretly. It's got more of a militaristic style thing going on. An interesting point, a spy mission is initiated when a military commander needs to acquire information, say to prepare for a battle. When doing so, usually a small group of men are sent secretly and hence report back only to the military commanders, certainly not to the entire nation. The 12 men in our parsha, a representative from each tribe, are sent publicly by the leadership to gather information for the entire nation. To be clear, in Deuteronomy 1:22, the Hebrew for the words translated search out is ve'yach paru, which denotes uncovering that which is hidden, more in terms with spying. In other words, the people wanted to send spies on a military spy mission, but the Hebrew word used in Numbers 13:2 for the phrase to spy out is ve'yach turu, which suggests more of a leisurely stroll, a tour, a scout, or a survey. So I'm just saying, the language to me suggests that the people wanted spies to be sent for military reconnaissance, but Yehovah told them only to tour the land. We've got these two accounts. Yehovah says go and spy the land, but we also have the account of the people asking if they can go and spy the land. And I think what the people were after was not what Yehovah was suggesting for them. Why would they want to send military spies instead of just going for a scouting expedition? Well, clearly they do not trust Yehovah, as is evidenced by their actions throughout the whole of the rest of the Torah. This is the exact opposite of a Shema response. Questioning Yehovah's word. He's already said, you're going to take the land. It's yours. What are they doing? They're seeing if they can make his words fit for them. And people do this, don't they? Can I make his word fit for me and my situation? They'll do a feasibility study. Oh, I don't know. Oh, but if I do, oh, and I can't keep the Sabbath, can I? Because this, that, and the other. And then it just reminds me of those who go off to pray about whether they're going to do what Yehovah says to do. I can't imagine anything more ridiculous. I'll go and pray about whether I should keep the Sabbath or whether I should carry on doing that job. It's just like, oh. What did they do? They despised the present land, having no faith in his promise. They murmured in their tents. They did not shema the voice of Yehovah. Don't be like these people who had no faith, who did not shema. If we go back to verse 20, Moshe tells the men, be ye of good courage and bring of the fruit of the land, and the word there is hazak. We see this word used a lot with regards to entering the promised land. And Yehovah speaks to Moshe. He said, charge Joshua and encourage, the word is hazak, and strengthen Amatz him. For he shall go over at the head of this people, and he shall put them in possession of the land that you shall see. Moshe with encouraging words to the second generation later in Deuteronomy. He said, Moshe continued to speak these words to all Israel. He said to them, I'm 120 years old today. I'm no longer able to go out and come in. Yehovah has said to me, you shall not go over this Jordan. Yehovah, your God himself, will go over before you. He will destroy these nations before you so that you shall dispossess them. And Joshua will go over at your head as Yehovah has spoken. Yehovah will do to them as he did to Sihon and Og, the kings of the Amorites, and to their land when he destroyed them. And Yehovah will give them over to you, and you shall do to them according to the whole commandment that I have commanded you. And then we have it again. Be strong and courageous. It's these words again. Do not fear or be in dread of them, for it is Yehovah your God who goes with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. And Moshe summoned Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, be strong and courageous again. And this is all linked with going in and taking hold of the promises of Yehovah. For you shall go with this people into the land that Yehovah has sworn to their fathers to give them, and you shall put them in possession of it. It is Yehovah who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed. And Joshua commissioned to lead Israel. Yehovah commissioned Joshua the son of Nun, saying, this is Yehovah saying to him, be strong. Again, these words, amatz and courageous, hazak, for you shall bring the people of Israel into the land that I swore to give them. I will be with you. So, taking hold of the promises of Yehovah and being strong and courageous go hand in hand. And the call to be strong and courageous continues in the book of Joshua. Only be strong and very courageous, same words, being careful to do according to all the law that Moshe, my servant, commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. So being strong and courageous, these things associated with taking hold of the promises of Yehovah, are equated with not being deterred from walking in Yehovah's ways. The message to us, wait on Yehovah, be of good courage, hazak, and he shall strengthen amatz thine heart. Wait, I say, on Yehovah. So again, these two words being used that speak of what it takes to go and take hold of the promises of Yehovah. And the Septuagint translates hazak as andrezu, act like a man. You see it in 1 Corinthians 16. This is what we're told to do. We're told, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, and act like men. Andrezu, hazak, be strong. That is, hope in Yehovah, be stout-hearted and decided in your convictions. And then it says, he shall strengthen. The verb here is ametz, is in the hifel form, meaning that once you're sure of your convictions, Yehovah produces the courage in you. So be of good courage, hazak. How do we become hazak? Deuteronomy 11. You shall therefore keep the whole commandment that I command you today, that you may be hazak. And go in and take possession of the land that you're going over to possess. Again, in relation to going and taking hold of the promises of Yehovah. When we keep the whole commandment, we are strong, we are chazak. When we are chazak of good courage, Yehovah strengthens us. Just like Joshua, we're told to take hold of the promises of Yehovah by following him wholly. We are to be strong and courageous, sure of our convictions, resolved and steadfast. Yehovah says to us as well, he says, I am with you. In Isaiah, to those who are truly his, that is, Yehovah says, but you, Israel, we read it before, my servant, Yaakov, whom I have chosen, the offspring of Abraham, my friend, you whom I took from the ends of the earth and called from its farthest corners, saying, you are my servant, I have chosen you and not cast you off. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And it's that word again, amatz. So, to those who are resolved in their convictions to follow Yehovah, to those who are truly his people, Yehovah says, I am with you. He says, I will strengthen you. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. Doesn't matter what comes your way. And through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. You walk through fire, shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you. We do not need to do feasibility studies in our life as to whether or not it makes sense to keep Yehovah's word and to walk in his ways. We just trust in him, and no matter what, we keep walking in obedience to him. We are Israel, his servant. And he says, I will be with you. Doesn't matter what comes along. He says he will never leave you or forsake you. Isaiah 46, listen to me, O house of Yaakov, all the remnants of the house of Yaakov, of Israel. You have been born by me from before your birth, carried from the womb. Even to your old age I am he. To grey hairs I will carry you. I have made and I will bear, I will carry and will deliver. Yehovah's promises to his people are incredible. The mountains may depart, the hills be removed, but my steadfast love shall not depart from you. My covenant of peace shall not be removed, says Yehovah, who has compassion on you. Make a joyful noise to Yehovah, all the earth. Serve Yehovah with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that Yehovah is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Yehovah is your keeper. Yehovah is your shade on your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. Yehovah will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. Yehovah will keep you going out and you coming in from this time forth and forevermore. Oh, but I don't know. Oh. Back to the Parsha. So they went up and searched the land from the wilderness of Zin unto Rehob, as men come to Hamath. And they ascended by the south and came unto Hebron, where Achiman, Shishai, and Talmai, the children of Anak, were. Now Hebron was built 7 years before Zoan in Egypt. They came to the valley of Eshcol and cut down from there a branch with a single cluster of grapes, and they carried it on a pole between two of them. They also brought some pomegranates and figs. The place was called the brook Eshcol because of the cluster of grapes which the children of Israel cut down from thence. And they returned from searching of the land after 40 days. And they went and they came to Moshe and to Aharon and to all the congregation of the children of Israel, and to the wilderness of Paran, to Kadesh, and brought back word unto them and to all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him and said, we came unto the land whither you sent us, and surely it flows with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. So the land's amazing. But then they say, nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and are very great, and moreover we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. All the people that Yehovah said, I'll drive them out before you. Okay, and of these people we see here in Amos 2:9, it was I who destroyed the Amorite before them, whose height was like the height of the cedars, who was as strong as the oaks. So Yehovah, as he promised he would, he drove these people out. But there's this lot, no, oh no, with their feasibility studies. Caleb stilled the people before Moshe and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. So he actually trusts in Yehovah. He has faith in the words of Yehovah and in his promises. So Joshua, he has a habit of keeping good company, doesn't he? I mean, he knocked around with Moses for the whole time of the wilderness. And here he is, he's aligned himself with the only other spy who has faith in Yehovah. Brings us to this again. He that walks with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. But the men that went up with him said, we be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than him. Again, it's just baffling, isn't it? At first the spies said the land was good, but following Caleb's outburst, they changed the tune, and these men are leaders, okay, chiefs, princes amongst the people. They're supposed to be leading the people. They're supposed to be this great example. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eats up the inhabitants thereof, and all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. So the land's great, the land's wonderful, milk and honey and all that. Caleb, we can do it. Oh no, actually the land eats up its inhabitants. No, the people are greater than Yehovah. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. And it just reminds me of all the people who think they have a problem in their life. I don't know. It's like something where they are challenged, and they always think it's bigger than Yehovah. That's how they put it in perspective. And it's just a lack of faith. It's a lack of understanding who he is. In every situation, to trust in him, not to lean on your own understanding is the way to go. All because they did not trust Yehovah. This is why these people are doing this. They don't trust him. They don't truly appreciate who he is. And then we read, all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. And all the people of Israel grumbled against Moshe and Aharon. The whole congregation said to them, would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would that we had died in this wilderness. Why is Jehovah bringing us into this land to fall by the sword? Our wives and our little ones will become a prey. Would it not be better for us to go back to Egypt? So rather than listening to the promises of Jehovah and his words, they've listened to this report of these leaders, and now they have no faith in his promises. And this is the same people who sang by the banks of the Red Sea. O Jehovah, glorious in power, your right hand, O Jehovah, shatters the enemy. In the greatness of your majesty, you overthrow your adversaries. They sound quite hollow now, don't they? They have forgotten. And then came the final insult to Jehovah and the land he was preparing for his people. They said to one another, let us make a captain and let us return to Egypt. Contrast this outcry with the passionate dying words of Israel and his son Joseph. In incidents decades apart, both of them cried out with all that was in them, don't let them bury me in Egypt. And now these people are saying, oh, come on, let's go back. Let us make a captain, let's return to Egypt. Let us no longer be led by Moshe the Torah, let's go back to the world. A time of testing, something difficult lies ahead. Rather than trusting in the word, no. The result, many turn from wholly following the word. They might not cry out to go back to the world, but that's what's in their hearts. And that's what happens to so many people who fall away. So many people who at one point in time might have come out singing their heads off, all delighted. And yet, the testing comes. Let's go back to the world. I don't want to be led by Moses, the Torah, anymore. The desire of the righteous ends only in good. The expectation of the wicked in wrath. So, what they think is going to happen if they go back to Egypt, I don't know. What people think will happen when they go back to the world, their expectations just end up in wrath. And Moshe and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the children of Israel. And Joshua the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, which were of them that searched the land, rent their clothes. And this is like a sign of real distress in Scripture and mourning. Clothing was very expensive and precious. To rip your clothing was a big deal. He spake unto all the company of the children of Israel, saying, the land which we passed through to search it is an exceeding good land. If the Lord delight in us, then he will bring us into this land and give it us, a land which flows with milk and honey. So clearly Joshua is passionate about the promises of Jehovah. Only do not rebel against Jehovah. Do not fear the people of the land, for they are bread for us. The protection is removed from them, and Jehovah is with us. Do not fear them. But all the congregation bade stone them with stones, and the glory of the Lord appeared in the tabernacle of the congregation before all the children of Israel. So, this is how many react if their lack of faith is challenged. Or to put it another way, if their disobedience is challenged. Right, let's pick up stones. Let's stone them. So ask yourself, who will you identify with in this parsha? Which is it to be for you? Is it the fear of Jehovah or the fear of man? A longing to be with Jehovah or a desire for the things of the world? Thankfulness and faith or murmuring and disobedience? How are you when challenges come along? I would say be a Joshua, be a Caleb, and follow Jehovah with all your heart, no matter what. Demonstrate and speak out about your desire to trust and follow Jehovah, even if it means the people around you want to stone you. Tear your garments, fall down like Moshe and Aharon, and pray. But do not align yourselves with those destined to die in the wilderness. Be fully surrendered and let Yehovah be the Lord of all your life. Trust him for everything and deny him in nothing. And if there are those who would pick up stones against you, Yeshua says, blessed are you when others revile and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven, for so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So, who persecuted the prophets? The answer, those calling themselves Yehovah's people. It's not uncommon, is it? To make a stand for the truth and to upset many people calling themselves his people. If you follow Yehovah wholly, then you can expect to annoy the 10 spies with their evil report and all the other host of naysayers. Luke 6:26. Woe to you when all people speak well of you, for so their fathers did to the false prophets. So they persecuted the prophets, those who brought the word of Yehovah, but false prophets were well received. It's just the same today. If you will stand for the truth and love Yehovah with everything you've got, then do not expect to win popularity competitions. Joshua and Caleb received hostility, not applause. Indeed, all who desire to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted, while evil people and impostors will go on from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived. And described elsewhere as ferocious wolves, the false prophets, people-pleasing ear ticklers who speak twisted things. Jeremiah 5, the prophets prophesy falsely, the priests rule at their direction, my people love to have it so. Popular, see, but what will you do when the end comes? And just a quick note, false prophets spoke the lingo and they looked the part. It still baffles me when I think of people who've spoken untruths, spoken actually against the word of Yehovah, and in their defense, other people will say, oh, but he's lovely. It's like, what do you think the false prophets were like? Everybody loved the false prophets. And they came across to many as very convincing. They were taken in by them, weren't they? False prophets don't go around wearing big badges that say, I'm a bit dodgy, you know. The majority of folk hang on their every word. As this verse says here, what will you do when the end comes? And talking about being tested, Deuteronomy 13, if a prophet or a dreamer of dreams arises among you, gives you a sign or a wonder, and the sign or wonder that he tells you comes to pass, and if he says, let us go after other gods which you have not known and let us serve them, you shall not listen to the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams, for Yehovah your God is testing you to know whether you love Yehovah your God with all your heart and with all your soul. You shall walk after Yehovah your God and fear him and keep his commandments and shema his voice. You shall serve him and hold fast to him. So Yehovah your God is testing you to know whether you love Yehovah your God with all your heart and with all your soul. And I would say that pretty much sums up most of the tests that you will have to face. It's to see whether or not you will fear him, love him, and keep his commandments and hold fast to him. That prophet, that dreamer of dreams, shall be put to death because he has taught rebellion against Yehovah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you out of the house of slavery, to make you leave the way in which Yehovah your God commanded you to walk. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. And we read, I, Yehovah, do not change. Yeshua HaMashiach is the same yesterday, today, and forever. That's why Paul will say the similar things in Galatians 1 when he says, as we have said before, so now I say again, if anyone is preaching to you a gospel contrary to the one you received, let him be accursed. In the Greek, anathema. Okay, a thing devoted to God without hope of being redeemed. In the Hebrew, cherem. Something devoted to destruction. It's about as strong as it gets. If somebody comes and preaches another gospel, let him be something devoted to destruction. It's really, really serious. Don't be taken in by the mixed multitude who will have you hearkening after the things of Egypt. Don't be taken in by those who lack faith, those who will do a feasibility study as whether Jehovah's word is actually true or not. Those who have no faith. Don't be taken in by any of those people. 1 Corinthians 5. What do I have to do with judging outsiders? It is not those inside the church whom you are to judge. God judges those outside. Purge the evil person from among you. So don't sidle up to those who have no faith, who spake against the word of Jehovah, who long for the pleasures of Egypt rather than keeping their minds on heavenly things. Tear your garments, fall down like Moshe and Aaron and pray, but do not align yourselves with those destined to die in the wilderness. The generation of the Exodus allowed their fleshly appetites, attitudes, and opinions to cause them to reject the promised land and cry out, "Oh, that we had died in Egypt." Many may have been physically related to Yaakov, but they were most definitely not true spiritual sons of Israel. They hankered after the world. They lacked faith. Colossians 3 again. Set your minds on things that are above, not on the things that are on the earth. You keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. Trust in the Lord forever, for the Lord is an everlasting rock. And many people will claim that they do. Trust Jehovah. But what will you do when the tests come? How are you when you're faced with challenges? What is it for you? What gets you to demonstrate that you have no faith? Or do you have faith? Are you an overcomer? A Joshua or a Caleb? Do you trust Jehovah? It gives us new life to know that you are standing firm in the Lord, Paul writes. And the word there in the Greek is steko, and it's the Greek equivalent of yatsav, the word we looked at before. Psalm 112 says, "Surely the righteous will never be shaken. They will be remembered forever. They will have no fear of bad news. Their hearts are steadfast, trusting in Jehovah." We're called to be just like Joshua and Caleb, to follow Jehovah wholly, to trust in his word, to stand firm, to be steadfast. We read it before, 1 Corinthians 6:13. Be watchful, stand firm. It's this word again, steko, the Hebrew equivalent of yatsav, in the faith. Act like men, be courageous, chazak, be strong. We're called to stand firm, to be steadfast. Okay, to put on the armor of Jehovah. As we saw, it was related to putting on the word of Jehovah, walking in his ways. And this standing firm is related to being courageous, hazak, to being strengthened by Jehovah, which is all related to taking hold of the promises of Jehovah. No matter what the test that comes your way, you should yatsav. Whatever comes along, you should be resolved to follow Jehovah. Resolved to be courageous, chazak. That is, to walk in his ways. You shall therefore keep the whole commandment that I command you today, that you might be chazak. Looking forward to the promises and not backwards to the world. Remembering all that Jehovah has done for you. You should stick to the manner. Don't go after all the nonsense that is a veneer of having something to do with the word. All the gibberish. Don't make a pretense of pursuing righteousness, as we saw before. Jehovah looks at the heart. You might impress other people, but you won't impress him. Surely the righteous will never be shaken. Their hearts are steadfast, trusting in Jehovah. So is that you? We'll continue a bit further before coming to a close. Jehovah said to Moshe, "How long will this people despise me, and how long will they not believe in me, in spite of all the signs that I've done among them? I will strike them at the pestilence and disinherit them, and I will make of you a nation greater and mightier than they. So here we have a bit of a test for Moshe. But Moshe said to Yehovah, then the Egyptians will hear of it, for you brought up this people in your might from among them. And they will tell the inhabitants of this land, they have heard that you, O Yehovah, are in the midst of this people. For you, O Yehovah, are seen face to face, and your cloud stands over them. And you go before them in a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. So Yehovah makes Moshe an offer. We'll get rid of all this bunch that's doing your head in anyway, and I'll make of you a nation greater and mightier. So Moshe is not swayed. He expresses concern, actually, for the name of Yehovah. Now, if you kill this people as one man, then the nations who have heard of your fame will say, it is because Yehovah was not able to bring this people into the land that he swore to give them, that he has killed them in the wilderness. And now, please let the power of the Lord be great as you have promised, saying, Yehovah is slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love, forgiving iniquity and transgression, but he will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation. So what Moshe does here is he calls upon the name and the character of Yehovah. Pardon, I beseech thee, the iniquity of this people according to the greatness of thy mercy, and as thou hast forgiven this people from Egypt even until now. What a great lesson in how to call out to Yehovah, to call on his name. And then Yehovah gives his answer. Yehovah said, I have pardoned according to your word, which sounds good. But then Yehovah continues, but truly as I live and as all the earth shall be filled with the glory of Yehovah, none of the men who have seen my glory and my signs that I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and yet have put me to the test these 10 times and have not shemad my voice, shall see the land that I swore to give to their fathers, and none of them who despised me shall see it. Wow. So they expressed their intense desire to die in the desert rather than enter the land of Israel. So let it be written, so let it be done. Yehovah gives them the desires of their heart. And please bear in mind, these things happened to them as an example. They were written down for our instruction, on whom the end of the ages has come. So all these things that we see, as JP mentioned last week in Scripture, are there for our instruction. We see what became of these people. Therefore, as the Holy Spirit says, today if you hear his voice, do not harden your heart as in the rebellion on the day of testing in the wilderness. Your fathers put me to the test and saw my works for 40 years. Therefore I was provoked with that generation and said, they always go astray in their heart. They have not known my ways. As I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest. This is what we've been reading. Take care, brothers, lest there be in any of you an evil, unbelieving, it's the same word again, heart, leading you to fall away from the living God. Okay, an unbelieving heart is a disobedient heart. So, this is a serious warning. A warning that sadly not everybody heeds, as is evidenced by the fact that so many fall away. They are tested in a matter, they lack faith, and then they disobey. Take care, brothers, lest there be in you an unbelieving heart. We read 1 Timothy 4:1. The Spirit expressly says that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, from believing, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, or those people for whom the manna is just perhaps not quite enough. They'll go after false teaching. Some shall depart from the faith, from belief. Some shall start to disobey, to be disobedient. So in the latter times, some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits. This word, G4108, plainos, deceiving, seducing, an imposter, wandering, roving, leading into error. We see it here in Job 19:4, delusion. And again, some shall be given to delusions. We see it in Jeremiah 23. In the latter times, people will be given to delusions. Please bear in mind, that the people who came out having seen all the wonders of Yehovah. They came out following Moses. So you could see them as Torah keepers. They sang and they danced. They brought, let's build the tabernacle. Take care, brothers, lest there be in any of you an evil, unbelieving heart, leading you to fall away from the living God. But exhort one another daily while it is called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. An unbelieving heart is a hard heart. We're told here, exhort one another daily. And Psalm 141 says, do not let my heart incline to any evil, to busy myself with wicked deeds in company with men who work iniquity. Let me not eat of their delicacies. Let a righteous man strike me, it is a kindness. Let him rebuke me, it is oil for my head. Let my head not refuse it. Exhort one another. My brothers, if any among you wanders from the truth and someone brings him back, let him know that whoever brings back a sinner from his wandering will save his soul from death, will cover a multitude of sins. A reproof enters more into a wise man than 100 stripes into a fool. Proverbs 17 continues. An evil man seeks rebellion indeed. Therefore an unmerciful messenger shall be sent against him. Think of those in rebellion in the first generation. An unmerciful messenger shall be sent against him. What was spoken to them? Your bodies shall fall in the wilderness. He that walks with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. Let us consider how to stir one another up to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. So just think of Joshua again. He didn't go along with the fools. He walked with the wise. He was encouraged, and the message to him was, you shall enter. And back to Hebrews 3. We have come to share in Christ if indeed we hold our original confidence firm to the end. Steadfast endurance. As it is said, today if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as in the rebellion. The rebellion that we're reading about. An unbelieving heart is a hard heart. The deceitfulness of sin can harden our hearts so that we behave just like the people in the wilderness did. Proverbs 28:14. Blessed is the one who fears Yehovah always, but whoever hardens his heart will fall into calamity. Those with hard hearts do not fear Yehovah. They do not love him. We see the correlation between fearing him and loving him throughout the scriptures. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as in the rebellion. Do not harden your hearts as in the rebellion on the day of testing in the wilderness. Who do you identify with in this parsha? What happens to you when tests come along? And if they haven't, then know that they will. No matter what the test that comes your way, you should be resolved to follow Yehovah, looking forward to the promises and not backwards to the world. Remembering all that Yehovah has done for you. Because surely the righteous will never be shaken. The hearts are steadfast, trusting in Yehovah. We'll come back at these times.